Set the nose back into a female position.
Redesign my chin, my jawline.
We reduce the chin by taking out a piece of bone in the middle, and I've also narrowed it. It's very wide.
And also reduce some of the muscles in my cheeks.
Facial feminization is major surgery. It takes longer to transform a face than it does to transplant a heart, from 8 to 12 hours.
I can't guarantee beauty, but I think what we can deliver is femininity. What I want for them is that they're lying in bed at 7 o'clock on Saturday morning, the doorbell rings, they've done nothing for themselves, they've tossed on a non-gender bathrobe, they go to the front door, and the person says, "I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am, but I want them to be that female. I want them to be obvious female no matter what they're wearing, what their cosmetics are, what their jewelry, etc."
For Elizabeth, the facial surgery was what confirmed her as a woman, even more than sex reassignment surgery.
Just to be quite honest with you, I mean, my SRS surgery was something that was great, but to me it was like removing something that just didn't belong there. It wasn't an enlightenment issue, it was just simply something that needed to be done. But changing my face was by far the most enlightening moment of my life. It was something that made me who I was. That's what gave me my start on life.
I'm just ready for this to come off for sure.
Aidan is having his first checkup with Dr. Brownstein since the chest reconstruction surgery a week ago.
Do you have much pain?
More like discomfort. No real pain.
Okay, now the graft is fine.
Great.
Pink.
In about 4 to 6 weeks, Aidan will be able to resume his gym work to add muscle to the cosmetic transformation that Dr. Brownstein achieved.
Sit. Very good.
Check it out. All right. Wow. My shirt actually fits the way it's supposed to now. That's cool. The first time I looked in the mirror was like an amazing feeling. I'd thought a lot about what would I look like once I'd finally had the surgery and like, you know, what would my new dimension sort of be. But the first time I saw my like totally flat chest, I was like just amazed. I was like, this can't be real. This can't really be me.
This is the high point of Aidan's transition so far. Now it's Michael's turn.
How's your trip been so far?
It's been very exciting, very hectic, but I've learned...
Now that Michael has made the decision to become Michelle, a required part of his transition is therapy.
Would you like to tell me a little bit about what's going on?
Yes, the point I'm at now in my transition is getting close to the point where I will go full-time. It's also the point where the important people in my life may have trouble accepting me.
Sex change is dramatic enough for the individual concerned, but it is almost as dramatic for the others who are involved with the individual.
Who are they? Who's in your family?
I have 4 sons, a wife.
The hardest part is how this transition affects family and friends, co-workers, because if for an older trans person such as Michelle, you have a whole life built in the male gender role. So to transition her whole life and bring along all the other people in her life can be very difficult.
Michael's wife will find it the hardest.
Yeah, I mean, the primary concern at this point anyway is with your spouse and your children who are living at home, I would assume.
Right.
And
I'm very scared. We're talking about a marriage of 20 years. It's my second marriage, but she's the love of my life, my soulmate, and I don't want to lose her. But at the same time, if I don't take care of my own needs, there will be no Michael for her to love. There will be no one there. You know, I'll just be a shell if I'm even around.
so she would prefer that you stay male?
Yes.
And she could keep her husband?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
she's heterosexual?
She's heterosexual, so it's, to her credit, she's made a lot of concessions. and has been very supportive. But I know there's a limit to how far she'll go. If I transition all the way fully, then that marriage will be over. And she's told me that. So not a very good situation, but I don't have a choice, and I can't blame her for the way she feels.
Finding a partner is one of the many trials faced by transsexuals.
I mean, look at me. If I'm considering dating someone, there's no roadmap for when do you tell, how do you tell, and I guess for some people, if you tell. There's no roadmap for what's the right time. If you tell too soon, you're being really presumptuous, and if you wait too long, then you're risking someone feeling tricked.
It's a real scary thing to become intimate with another person. And I think those of us who don't have gender variance or who don't have transsexual bodies often gloss over how scary that intimacy is. And I think this is another almost virtue in a way, if we turn it around and look at it from a different perspective, that transsexual people really have to get serious about that intimacy, because it does mean being vulnerable, and we know it, whereas other people get to forget it.
There is often confusion between sex, sexuality, and sexual preference. A recent study showed that 1 in 4 men who become female remain sexually attracted to women.
You're talking about sexual orientation, which is totally different than gender. I don't know at this point if my orientation will change. As a male, I'm heterosexual and I am attracted to women. And as far as I know, that attraction has stayed the same. But I'm not sure of the statistics, but I believe that about half of us, after we go through transition, actually switch. So we're still heterosexual, but now we're the other way.
Lucas understands the contradictions.
It's funny, I'm more in touch with my female side now. Whereas before, I was walled off. There was a part of me that was walled off. The myth of the testosterone producing a tough hide is certainly not my case at all. Anything but.
When female, Lucas was lesbian. Now that he is a male, his sexual preference has shifted. Lucas is now attracted to men.
All to say, it's allowed me to uncover parts of me that I never would have tapped into before, and it's freed me up. It's brought me into the present day. Now I can relate to someone on their own grounds and on my own grounds instead of the ghosts from my past manipulating my emotions for me.
Oh, really?
The love of Rob's life is Elizabeth.
So we met and just kind of like real casual. We sat at the bar, had a couple of drinks, and that was pretty much it. It kind of took my breath away at first. I was like, I can't believe that this person has any interest in me at all.
Rob knew without being told that Elizabeth had a past, but he had no idea that that past was as a man called Lee.
Shocked. I mean, I knew, but I didn't believe it. Just by the pictures and seeing her in person and everything like that, I couldn't see it. I still can't see it. It was amazing that she didn't sound like a guy, didn't look like a guy, it would have never dawned on my mind that she used to be her former self.
Elizabeth completed her gender change 2 years ago and has never looked back.
I want to have somebody in my life for the rest of my life, somebody I can grow old with. We can play jokes on each other, just have a great time. We can hug each other when we need to. Sure, somebody to actually, when you go to sleep at night, they're there beside you.
A number of transsexual women were asked about their sex lives after surgery. Almost half said their new sexual partners were unaware that they had had a sex change, and more than half were living in permanent relationships.
She used to be a different person. Everybody used to be a different person at some point in their life, and at some point in their life they made a change. Hers is probably more drastic than anybody else would attempt to take, but I feel very lucky. As beautiful as she is and compassionate and loving as she is, I just didn't think I could find somebody like that.
Okay, so what I could do actually is I could just email you both those contacts.
Lucas Walter works as a community counsellor with the Transgender Health Programme in Vancouver.
With his wife, who is they could hook you up to whoever. Your lives are based on your gender. You have a wife or a husband or kids, or it's your social standing. It's also gender oriented. There's no good time to change. There's no good time to tell everybody that in fact, you're not this, you're that.
His own experience helps him in his new profession.
I went to my doctor, and I was so scared to say it out loud. It's not as bad now, I suppose, in major centers, but at the time there was just such a huge stigma around the word transsexual. But I talked to my doctor, who didn't know anything about it much, but she said, well, there's an internationally renowned gender clinic right here in Vancouver. So I finally went in to talk to them, and there's a certain air freshener that they use in that building, and to this day when I smell it, I get emotional, because when I walked in there, it's like I was going home. To go into a place where I know there's people who can help me get to myself, who understand, and they're not going to be alarmed or disgusted or concerned about my mental health. They're going to understand, and they're going to help me get where I need to go. Even now, so many years later, it's been 8-10 years later, it's still a very moving thing for me to recall.
Sex reassignment surgery takes a toll, both physical and financial, but it's the emotional toll on relationships that Lucas prepares his clients to face.
Because it upsets everybody's apple carts, and people do that. Families do stay together and families do fall apart. But they don't call this a hero's journey for nothing.
I never thought I could look this good. Never in a million years. This is great. And this is what I get to wear the first time out, which is even better.
This is the moment that Michael is reborn as Michelle.
Yes, it's a little bit of a big first step, but it feels good.
You're ready.
Yes, I am ready.
You're definitely ready.
I think so. Look out, world.
Ah! Here she comes. Here she comes.